All of us reach a point in time where we are depleted and need to somehow find a way to reignite the fire within. But how do we spark that flame? Welcome to Reignite Resilience, where we will venture into the heart of the human spirit. We'll discuss the art of reigniting our passion and strategies to stoke our enthusiasm. And now, here are your hosts, Natalie Davis and Pamela Cass.
Welcome back to another episode of Reignite Resilience. I am your co-host, Natalie Davis, and I am so excited to be back with all of you today. And joining me, of course, is your co-host, Pam Cass. Pam, how are you today?
I'm fabulous. It is a beautiful Friday afternoon, and we end
Yes.
these Friday afternoon recordings, and it's a great way to end the week.
It is a wonderful way to end a week. Yes, yeah. Except this is not my end. I still have my to-do list is not done, so I've got some things to do.
It doesn't ever end. I mean, I didn't mean we're done. We're done. Like,
yes.
And in our industry, are we really ever done?
No, well, we'll get there. We'll figure it out. There's going to be a time that we'll figure it out.
Someday. We'll get there.
Someday. It's not today, though, but it is a beautiful, wonderful Friday afternoon. And we have a guest joining us today, and I am so excited. This is a person that I've had the opportunity to get to know and enjoy and respect and appreciate and work with or alongside, or guess grow with and grow alongside. I don't know what we're doing together, but we'll figure out what we're doing. Why don't you tell our listeners who's joining us today, Pam?
Absolutely. So today we have Steve Rupp with us, and he is a 25-year real estate industry veteran who has grown up in the real estate and led one of the highest producing teams in the city. He is known as one of the most highly educated real estate agents in the world, having earned 18 designations and certifications. Steve is married to his wife, Bridget, and has a daughter, Anastasia, who is a sophomore at IU, and Natalie, who is a freshman at Westfield High School and is a competitive cheerleader. When not working, Steve enjoys traveling to Europe. Welcome, Steve. So excited to have you here. So tell us about yourself, and oh my gosh, 18 designations and certifications.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks, Pam and Natalie, for having me. This is fun. We're gonna have a good time.
We're gonna have a good time. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it was a nice intro. So I don't know what else I can add to that. You kind of got me in a nutshell there.
Okay, we're done. There it is.
That's a wrap. Quickest podcast ever.
Yes, yes.
Well, I mean, 25 years in the real estate industry. There's some background there. Talk to us a little bit about that, because that is, exactly.
Lots of books we could write, right? Isn't that what everybody says? You should write a book.
Yes. I've got a couple ideas for coffee table books about the real estate industry that I think would be very entertaining and eye-opening. I don't know if that's a good, bad, but you'd be entertained. That's
entertained. And I think my clients would be like, was that me?
Yes. Yes. And is that real?
Totally, 100%. Totally, 100%.
Yes.
Everyone would be looking at that. It's like, I think that was me. Was that me?
I'm pretty sure that was me. We're going to have to put a disclaimer. These are fictitious characters.
Yes. The names have been changed.
Or not.
Yes. But that's, I mean,
careful, because they might end up in our book.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Yes. But 25 years
form.
in real estate, that's
another
a big
form that clients need to sign at the beginning, right? With everything else they need to sign. You may show up in a book. You're releasing your copyright to me to do that.
Another disclosure form. We need another one.
We do.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, give us a little bit of insight. I mean, you're right. Probably years and years of stories, but getting into the business, building a team, a highly successful team, and building a significant reputation for yourself in terms of the real estate space. I mean, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in the business. My dad was in real estate. He did the thing that you're told never to do, and he actually got into the business when the year that his first child was born, which was me. And so it goes all the way back to 1972. So he got in the business then. He worked for a small local company here, and then he ended up leaving that company and taking six other agents with him and started up Century 21 franchise. And it was one of the first ones here in the area. And he was the managing broker and owner. And they went on. He owned, I think he was the owner there for, I don't know, 16, 17 years. And he ended up, they were the number one Century 21 office in the world for 11 out of 13 years
Wow.
here in little Indianapolis.
Mhm.
So he went to all the, the conventions and walked across the stage and has a whole closet full of gold jackets and, all that stuff.
That's right.
And the funny thing is that, he was kind of telling me throughout high school and college that, well, you should go into real estate or whatever. I was like, I don't want to go into real estate. I see how hard you work. I see all the crap that you put up with and all the, the missed dinners and the vacations that erupted and, and all the stuff that we deal with. And I was intentionally trying to get out of it and not do it. And so I went to Xavier University and I majored in entrepreneurial studies before it was even a thing. And the department had two professors, and I think there were 30 kids in there. And I ended up getting my degree in that. And I did what every entrepreneur does, and I went to work for a bank.
Oh.
And that was an interesting sell to all the bankers out there when you were doing your interviews, and they're like, "You're not a finance or accounting major?
No.
Why would we want to hire an entrepreneur? That's just kind of weird." And so somebody took a chance on me, and I ended up working for a bank. Here's my thought process. My thought process was, I'm going to own my own business at some point, and I want to be able to know and understand with the devil before I have to sleep with him. So I want to understand how the financial markets worked.
Perfect.
And how money worked. And so I went into banking, and I liked some of it. I hated a lot of it, and it was just too regimented. And so the most favorite part was being a branch manager, and I love doing that. I love leading the team, and we are actually the number one in the region, and it was really fun until I was in Boy Scouts, and an old scoutmaster of mine pulled me out of there and said, "Hey, I've got a business that I own, and I would like for you to bring you in and you take it over, one day when I will retire." And for this little, mid-20s something kid, you mentioned the word ownership to them, and they're like all kinds of giddy. And it's like, yeah, I don't really care what this is all about, but you say ownership, I'm there. And
Yes.
so that was me, and that was a flop. I hated that. Lasted 5 months, and got fired. He fired me. And then I ended up working for a promotional products company for about a year, and I did really well with that. And I don't know how much you know about promotional products, but you got to sell a lot of them to make any money. So as a project manager, you were working on like 50, 60, 70 projects at a time. You were making maybe 30, $40 for each project. So you had to do a lot. And I was like, man, this is bonkers. Why do I want to do this? I'm working too hard. So I went after these big companies. I went after like Anthem Insurance, Sears Hardware National Account, the Pacers, the Colts, Sheriff's Association. I went after these big companies. I did really well. And then the owner of the company came up to me and she said, "Steve, this is not the way the company is run. You can't keep doing it this way. So you got one of two choices. You can either A, do it my way, or leave." And I left.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
couldn't do it. And so my dad was like, "Well, son, you don't have a job. I have a job for you.
Yeah.
I will pay for you to go get your license and give me a year. And if you don't like it, great, go do something else.
Yeah.
But give me a year. If you do like it, I only have one requirement, and that is that you need to go back to licensing school." This is when we were a dual license state. "And you need to go back and get your broker's license because I don't want you to be beholden to anybody." If you want to hang a shingle outside your house that says Rupp Real Estate, I want you to have the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And as I've found as I've gotten older, my dad is usually right. So I went back and got my broker's license and joined him. We worked together for about 5 years, and he mentored me for 5 years. And then he retired, and I took over the business, and then I grew it. And during that time, I was still working at his company, and just it was too I was too comfortable, and I was stuck. I was just kind of like stuck at a production level, and I just couldn't get over it. And I would ask my coaches there about what do I need to do, and they were coming up empty, and they're like, I don't know. And that was kind of my cue that I needed to leave. And
Mhm.
so, that's when I went over and I interviewed a bunch of companies, and I ended up hanging my shingle at KW, very entrepreneurial company, as you know, and that resonated with me. And I quintupled my production in just a matter of 3 years.
Wow.
So it really is a lot to do. And I teach a lot about this, where most agents make changes, I think, for the wrong reason.
Mhm.
They're looking for an external solution for an internal problem.
Mhm.
And I will say that I was one of the rare people that needed an external solution for an external problem. And it worked. And so that change for me was good.
Mhm.
Most agents, they're not going to see a radical change like that unless your environments are just not conducive to what you're trying to achieve.
Mhm.
And that's what happened with me. So I ended up building a team and ran the team. And so I ended up doing that for 25 years. And I loved it until I didn't. And then I needed to take a break. And so I ended up selling my business to a very good friend of mine with whom I worked almost the entire time. I met him at my dad's company first, and then he came over with me to KW. And and now I'm technically on his team, but I don't produce anymore. And then and we have a buyout agreement, and so that works for me. And that that's probably one of um, the biggest disappointments I have in this industry is that real estate agents work so hard for what they do, like any business owner, blood, sweat, tears, all the nights, all the weekends, all the missed occasions, the sporting events, the birthdays, the time with your family, the late nights, the worrying, the stress, the lack of money. I mean, go on and on and on and on and on. And then they finally they build this business and they put all this stuff into it, and then they leave and they just turn off the lights and shut the door and walk away.
Yeah.
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 And my question is why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you not monetize what you built?
Mhm.
Every other company does that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's value to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me sad. And so that's, one of the things that for any of the coaching clients that I have now, we talk about that. We're like, you need to build a business based on systems and models, because that is behavior, it's outputs that you can anticipate, and someone is willing to pay for that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And if you don't do that, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was kind of how I got here. And then in the middle of all that, got married and had some kiddos. And um, I got two daughters, so I'm a girl dad. And one of my youngest is a competitive cheerleader, so I go to all the cheer events. And I always tell, I'm the moms know this now, but there are some dads there, and I'm not going to say they're not. There's absolutely dads there, but we are absolutely in the minority.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times for our team where I'm like one of the only dads there. So I had to get real comfortable real fast with mom talk.
Oh.
And I
Oh.
always I always tell the ladies, I said, there is absolutely nothing that you can tell me that's going to embarrass me or make me feel uncomfortable. You can
Yeah.
talk about whatever you want to talk about, and I am right there with you.
Yeah.
So I've heard it all.
I feel like mom talk is a little bit different than cheer mom talk. Like cheer mom talk
It
is a
might
whole
be.
different level.
Yeah,
Yes.
Some of those cheer moms are crazy.
Yes.
in a good way. In a good way.
In a good way. Yes.
Some not so good.
Well, I think that would be true of any situation. There's always
Yeah.
some not so good.
When there's that level of
Absolutely.
competition that's involved and at stake, yeah. I mean, you've got the internal competition, like, fighting for the spot on the team or on the squad, and then the competition with the other teams, and then it's competition year round. I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of competition in that
And,
space.
and competition equals drama. And
Yes.
cheer is not immune to drama. My gosh. I mean, they've had shows and movies about it. And I'll tell you, it's not that far off
Yes.
from the real
The
thing.
dance moms, is that the big
And I love it. And I love it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
is
I
awesome.
love that. Well, Steve, that's a great story. Thank you. Like giving us kind of the background in a nutshell. And there are a couple of things that I want to go back and take a look at. And if you don't mind, like as you found yourself in that spot that you didn't have a job and dad said, well, I have one for you. Where were you in that time? Did you feel like you had exhausted all of your resources? Because, I mean, coming out of college, you've got an entrepreneurial degree, and now you're going to create whatever it is that you want to create to establish this life that you want to have and be your own boss. And you went the non-traditional route to get to what was the beginning of a very successful business. But where were you at that time?
yeah, it was, the way I got here is it is a little non-traditional, but then again, well, it is non-traditional because most agents don't get to take over the business from their parents. So I absolutely recognize that. And I also recognize that it was easier for me to get into it, to be really candid with you, um, versus starting from scratch.
Mhm.
On the other hand, it was a weird and unplanned, I'm not that smart, journey that I had that perfectly prepared me for what I ended up doing. I went to college with an entrepreneurship degree. So it taught me how to start and run a business. It also taught me going to college with I was heavily involved in club activities and sports and everything. Taught me interpersonal communication skills, leadership, all that, which was great. And then I went into banking, so that taught me the finance part of it, which, as you know, is an integral part for real estate. And then
Yes.
I went into to a small business. So I learned how small business ran. And frankly, there was a lot of stuff that business wasn't doing right. And I saw it. It was a closely held business, a husband and wife. And so I saw how family interacted in a negative way.
Yeah.
And so I learned that. And then I learned marketing through the marketing piece that I did and how to market and brand and so forth. So I had all of that. And that was, if you look back at it, you're like, man, that was a pretty good in managing people, with
Yes.
managing at the bank. And you kind of look at it, you kind of hit all the major buckets for what you
Yeah.
need to do for real estate without knowing it.
Yes.
So I had a really good foundation for this business, completely unintentionally, and then an awesome mentor. And my dad had a stellar reputation within the industry, still does. Any of the long timers definitely remember him and know him.
Yeah.
And so I had some great long coattails to get on. So it made my runway a lot shorter that I
Mhm.
needed to do to ramp up. And so, where I was at that point, I was like, man, I've tried this, I've tried three different things now, and might as well give it a shot, see how it goes. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I am a non-traditional real estate agent. I will tell you that because my personality is a little different from other real estate agents. Most real estate agents on a DISC personality scale are high D and high I, and I
Mhm.
am a high I, but I'm also an extremely high C. So very, very detail oriented, and that is not what most real estate agents are.
Okay.
So I'm a high C, S, I, D in that order,
Oh,
which
wow.
is exactly opposite what most real estate agents are. So I like the clients that most agents hated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your engineers, your accountants, your lawyers. I mean, I could relate to them very well.
Yes.
and I was very detailed. And that's where I love to live, is in the details.
Yeah.
And most agents don't. And
Mhm.
so that's how I could kind of create a name for myself with that. If you're in that profession and you like details, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I can do that, and I can outshine these other agents who might be more experienced than I am.
Yeah.
And then, that also leads to my desire to get experience quickly.
Mhm.
And that's why I started, doing all those designations in the alphabet soup or whatever,
Yeah.
because I wanted to learn. And I felt that with me being a responsible for one of the most important financial decisions of someone's life, that I needed to earn the opportunity to be part of that. And just getting my real estate license, I didn't feel was enough. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to make sure that I was able to have the educational background for that. And so that's why I started doing it. And I'm an education junkie. My whole family is teachers, so I kind of come by it honestly.
Mhm.
And once I started, I just kept going, and then I kind of made it a game, and I kind of looked at other agents and seeing how many they had, and I was like, well, I want one more than they do. So what else can I learn? And that's kind of how it came up. And before I knew it, someone was like, I think you are one of the most formally educated real estate agents in the world. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, look, there's no one else out there that has that many designation certifications. And
Yeah.
the ironic part about it is consumers don't care.
They don't even
You know,
know what those mean.
No.
Like, what
if
is
you look
Yeah.
at if
Yeah.
you look at the NAR profile of buyers and sellers, if you ask them, on that profile, and it says what's a level of importance,
Mhm.
and at the very bottom, less than 1% is designation certifications your agent has. They don't care, which
Mm.
I find interesting and fascinating, because they don't care about how educated their agent is in an industry that is known for being uneducated.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's about
Yes.
relationships. That's what they're drawn to.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Relationships and outcomes.
Yeah,
Yes. That's it.
absolutely.
People pay for outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's easier for you to hand a client off when you have a team, to a team member,
Hmm.
because, even though that they work for you, and this was something that I ran into all the time with the family business.
Hmm.
And then I started getting, buyer's agents and so forth, assistants, marketing directors, whatever, and I could hand it off because they knew that the outcome was going to be the same or better than what they were used to.
Yeah.
And that's the magic in that. A lot of people ask about how do you hand a client off to somebody. It's easy. You just make sure that they know that you've got a system. They want the outcome. They want the system. Yeah, the relationship. It's based on relationships. 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But they will work with somebody else if you can ensure them that they're going to get the same outcome that they got with you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's what they want. That's what they'll pay for.
Yeah.
And that's why they move with agents. Clients move with agents, so they don't stick with the brokerage. The brokerage doesn't provide the outcomes, the agent does.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I
I
love
don't know. I probably got off on a tangent big time. I
no,
have
and
no idea where we were going with that.
I think that's so good though, because when you talk about building a team, often agents just start a team, or they think they want to start a team because they got busy, but they've not put any systems or processes in place. And then they wonder why it just ends up being just this hot mess.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely agree
you
with
had
that.
these like dialed in systems. So it didn't matter who was doing it. If they
Hmm.
follow the system, if they follow the recipe, they're going to get the same results every single
That's
time.
right. That's exactly right. And and let's face it, it's not only real estate, it's any sales. It's a numbers game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do what
Absolutely.
it takes to get the results you want, your equation's going to balance. And if you
Yeah.
don't, it won't.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Steve, the same is true just from the business standpoint, because I'm in awe at the fact that you were able to take over the business from your dad and then in turn sell your business to your now the new owner of the business, or
Hmm.
and or your business partner. Uh, as you mentioned and you alluded to, in this industry, in the real estate industry, it's very rare that you see established real estate practitioners that sell their business because they haven't built something that's sellable and over all of the years. But for you to be a part of that twice, right? You received it and you were able to sell it. Actually, I would have to say that is a very slim percentage of what actually happens in this market or within this industry. And I don't know if I if we've seen that transition happen multiple times yet. And so, what has that process been like for you? Because what was like a family business from dad to
Mhm.
you, now the new owner of the business, not a family member, how has that transition been as you're stepping out or becoming a member of the team?
Hard.
Ah,
Hard. That one word answer. Um,
yes.
taking over from my dad, so I had different my fears then were no one's going to want to work with me. They want to work with my dad. And the majority of the business, well, it all came from him. And we all have that. We all have imposter syndrome, and it comes in, I'm not worthy. I mean, it happens to
Mhm.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, over those 5 years I worked with my dad, I tracked our business and going from 100% him down to about 20% him and 80% me at the end of those 5 years.
Mm.
So I kind of proved to myself that I could do it. Now, I also, work and live in the much to my wife's chagrin, in the same place where I grew up and where she grew up. So she would love to move, but I was like, I need to stay here. And those are where my relationships are. And as we talked earlier, it's real estate is based on relationships.
Mhm.
And so, um, a lot of the people that my dad worked with, they literally watched me grow up and I knew them in those friend circles from my parents. I mean, they literally watched me from when I was a baby to, through college. I saw them come over for bridge and gourmet group and
Yeah.
the church groups and doing the church activities and all this stuff they literally watched me do it. So they had this innate trust in me, I think, because they're like, well, apple can't fall far from the tree, so you can't be that big of a screw up kind of a thing. So that
Yeah.
was nice.
Mhm.
But then we switched and built the team. Um, and the interesting thing was that when it was like that last 3 years before I sold is where I could really tell that something needed to change because I wasn't enjoying it, and it was a chore. Um, I didn't look forward to going to work every day. My team could feel it. I could feel it. My family could feel it. I'm sure my clients could feel it. And it was just one of those things where, you know, um, you just had to hit bottom in order to make a change. One of those things. You're either going to it's either going to be pain or pleasure, right?
Hmm.
And the strongest of the two is pain. And so that's what I had to go through. And every entrepreneur has gone through this.
Yeah.
You've got to get through the pain to push through that ceiling.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. And I was like, I mean, I still remember this. It was December 13th, about 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. And it was 2 years ago. And I was laying in bed with my wife and I said, I think I'm done. And she rolled over and she was like, done with what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You probably lying in bed with your wife should probably put a little caveat, like, not done with you, like
Yes.
parents, like
Yes.
something
She's
else.
like, where are we? What are we talking about? What is happening?
Give her a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I was like, I think I'm done selling. And so then the next thing you have to know her to understand it. But the next words were probably not what you would expect most spouses to say, not the most supportive. And it was, oh, so you can finally go get a real job.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't think I can do that. I've
wow.
worked for
Yeah.
myself for 25 years. I
Yeah.
can't work for the man.
Yeah.
So anyway, she said, well, what do you like doing? And so I really thought back and I was like, you know what? I love teaching.
Hmm.
I love training and helping other people. Again, going back, my whole family is teachers.
Yeah.
And so kind of come by it honestly. And she said, why don't you look into that? Because I told her, I said, I don't know what I want to do. And so I don't want to necessarily leave real estate because it's an industry that I love. I've devoted so much of my life to it. I mean, I don't know if I have any employable skills whatsoever, so I got to do something within my industry. So that's when I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna look into training and coaching.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started up my company. And Steve Rupp Coaching, I ended up calling my buddy the next day, and I was like, hey, can you meet me for a drink? I've got something I want to talk to you about. And so, we did, and I was like, I'm done with real estate. And he was like, what? What do you mean? And I said, I want to sell it and I want you to buy it.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, tell me more. And so I kind of talked about what my vision was and how I wanted to play out. And I talked a little bit about the financial aspect of it and everything. And I said, what do you think? And he was like, let me talk to my wife. And I'm all right, fine. Take as much time as you need. And so he got back to me the next morning and sent me a text and said, we're in. And so that's when we kind of got through the buyout phase. And I was like, you know what? I know with my personality, I can't keep selling. So it's one of those things where I just had
Yeah.
to have a
Rip the
clean
Band-Aid
break.
off. That's it. Yeah.
And otherwise I was going to keep getting pulled back in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I knew that because that was my comfort place.
Absolutely.
Whereas with starting a new company is very uncomfortable. So I was going to keep going back there.
Yeah.
And so I knew that if I didn't, burn the bridge, so to speak,
Mhm.
that I was going to keep crossing it. And so I had to do that. And it was scary with starting over again from an established business that was generating a good income. And, uh, it was all referral and repeat business and so forth. And, so, we ended up coming up with a plan and my team was all on board. They had other things, all of them had other things that they were wanting to pursue. They were kind of staying there for me. And I said, you know what? You need to do what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And
Yeah.
that's not the team anymore. So everybody landed on their feet, which was great. And so, coming over to him, it was hard because he didn't take my name, and I was fine with that, and I told him to do that.
Mhm.
I said, keep your name, and then we'll do a transition. And so that's what we did, and let my database know and all my clients and everything. And it's a 3-year buyout, and so I'm still in touch. I do my birthday anniversary calls. I attend events, all that stuff, letting people know I'm still there because I still get income from the team. But I will tell you that that transition from when I left when I chose this April 1st of last year is when I officially sold. Probably not the best date on April Fool's Day, looking
Mhm.
back at it,
Yeah.
but we'll see who the fool is, and I guess shortly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it
You
was,
have four years left. Let's look at it 5 years from then, right?
yeah, yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you that, probably for this is a good educational moment, is that I never quite understood why people who retired had such a hard time.
Yeah.
I didn't get it and I didn't retire, I made a transition,
Yeah.
but I understand it 100% now. I get it. And what I get is that when I sold my company and I no longer had ownership interest in it, I wasn't the one calling the shots.
Mhm.
And we did team photos shortly thereafter to update the photos with me in it, whatever. And the photographer was like, "All right, we're gonna have boss man in the middle." And I started to step forward, and I was like, "Oh, that's not me anymore. That's you, James. So I'll sit off on the side."
Yeah.
And it was, it's kind of an ego hit when you have that, and it's okay. Um, but the hardest part was, going to I'm very, very active in the chamber, was the chairman of the board for the chamber, and did that for a lot of stuff. And so I went to a luncheon, and people, were asking me when I was sitting down. It's like, so what do you do? I didn't know what to tell them. Am I a real estate agent?
Mhm.
Because that's really who I am. I'm not a coach. I haven't done that yet, at least formally. I haven't trained or anything. So what do I tell them? Do I tell them what I'm going to do, or do I tell them what I have done? And so for me, it was kind of an awkward transition of, well, I just sold a real estate business, and, real estate agent, and I'm starting a coaching company and everything. And that was that. But I feel like I lost my identity because that's who I was. Maybe you can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People ask you, what's your name? Natalie Davis. Natalie, what do you do? I mean, it just rolls off the tongue.
Right.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so until you can't.
Right.
And, what do you, Steve Rupp, what do you do?
Yeah.
It used to be, well, I run a high performing real estate company. I help people with their real estate
Hmm.
issues and challenges, and I provide great solutions, whatever the answer was. And now I couldn't say that. So, it was kind of an identity crisis that I
Mhm.
had. And I understand how people, when they retire, which is supposed to be the promised land,
Yeah.
and they're like, this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And because they lost their identity, they lost their purpose. And that's why so many people, if you don't retire to something, you just retire from something. That's why you die. I mean, my
Mhm.
dad told me, this isn't meant to be so morbid, but my dad used to work in Dunedin, Florida back in the 60s, and he sold condos down there for a developer. And he told me, he said, Stephen, the one thing that I noticed, and most of these were to seniors, he said, there's one thing that I noticed that I want you to always remember, and that is that the people who come down here who are retiring to something, in other words, they've got friends, they've got activities, maybe they've got a second career, volunteer, something. There's something for them to give them purpose. The people who retire to something stay here and they stay healthy and happy. The people who are retiring from something, the cold, a job, a crappy state, whatever the case is, they don't really have anything here. They either move or they die within 3 years.
Wow.
Really? That's fascinating. He said, so remember, when you choose to retire, always retire to something, not from something,
Yeah.
and you'll live longer and happier.
Yeah.
I thought it was a profound statement that he made, and it was a really interesting story. And I can't tell you how many times I've told that story because I've never heard anyone else say anything like that. And people always agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Once they think about it, they're like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'm sure doctors and gerontologists and so forth would agree 100%. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People don't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of finding myself in that too, retiring to something, not retiring because I still need to work, but doing something that I wanted to do. And then I had to build up the authenticity to validate to myself that I was that, and
Mm.
that imposter syndrome. And like I said, anytime you start out, heck, you're a brand new real estate agent, you got imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do you deserve to help that first client? Absolutely not. You
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
deserve to help them. You don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And the reason that you do have that opportunity is probably going back to what Pam was talking about earlier, and that is the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have the credentials or the resume,
No. No.
because that's something that you go back, and when I'm teaching new agents, I'm like, here's the deal: your relationship is more important than what you know.
Hmm.
And let me prove it to you. If you're going to go on a listing appointment today, and let's say I'm also competing with you for that business, and let's say I don't have a connection with this client, let's say they found me online or whatever, and you have a personal relationship with them, who do you think is more likely to get the business, you or me? I could run circles around you. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to be arrogant, but I've been doing this for 25 years.
Mhm.
I've got all the accolades, I've got all the resume, the pedigree that
Mhm.
that logically says you should hire Steve.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yet they're going to hire likely the other person. Why? Because of the relationship. Not because of what they have done, but
Right.
because of the relationship that they have.
Yeah.
And so you got that imposter syndrome. And I hate this phrase. I hate it. And it's still true. You got to fake it till you make it,
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't earned the right for that business.
No.
Yeah.
But you got to fake it like you do
Yeah.
Yeah.
until you've done enough and you've got enough reps in
Yeah.
where you have earned that. Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, and,
100%.
and I think the other layer to that phrase, like fake it till you make it, I think a big part of that goes back to who is that person that's stepping into that space, right? So if you're stepping in as a coach now out of that real estate practitioner persona, right? That was the avatar of who you were and how you operated for 25 years. And now you need to become this person that is Steve the coach. You absolutely have to fake it because you need to figure out, how does Steve the coach show up? Who is he? What does he want? What's important to him? How is he structuring this new business, right? So when you fake it till you make it, it's not that you're just pretending that you've successfully achieved it. It is testing out, who is this new version of me so that I can do it and do it well, right? I think that's a big piece. It's not just pretending. So I think that's the caveat that we often it's like, fake it till you make it. You'll figure it out. It's fine. Don't fake it. Who the heck are you? And what do you offer of value?
Yeah. Creating that new identity.
Thank you for joining us today on the Reignite Resilience podcast. We hope you had some aha moments and learned a few new real-life ideas to fuel the flames of passion. Please subscribe on your favorite streaming platform, like or download your favorite episodes, and of course, share with your friends and family. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Reignite Resilience.